Good day and welcome to Wheat Pete's Word here on Real Agriculture for Wednesday, May the 29th. On this episode of The Word, there's just so much to talk about. I'm just gonna start talking. Let's go. First, please be safe. I cannot believe it. I was following a drill down Highway 19. He was off on the shoulder and on the road because he was wide. A ton of dust. I couldn't see past, and so I waited to pass. Some of the people behind me started getting antsy. You could see him pulling out. And then he moved out onto the pavement, and he was still basically in our lane. The dust cleared. You could see 3 sets of orange flashing lights. Like everything Wheat Pete talks about was perfect. And I thought, oh good, he's pulled out to let the dust clear so we can pass him. I almost went to pass him, nobody coming, and he turned left. And as he turned left, I saw the 2 red lights on the center piece of the drill, and the left turn signal was on, but with 3 sets of yellow flashing lights, I missed the red turn signal. Nothing happened. I mean, I wasn't flying past them, but it really does point out a couple of things. If you're making a dust storm, please respect the people behind you. Try to give them a chance to pass, because not everybody is as patient as Wheat Pete. And if you're going to turn left, look at the back of your unit. If the flashing lights are going to take everybody's attention, turn them off a little bit before you turn left so that we focus in on the turn signals. I was astounded, man. I'm not blaming the driver at all. He was doing everything right, but I was astounded at how I missed that turn signal, because I was looking at the orange flashing lights, and those red ones were down, kind of. They weren't hidden, but they weren't nearly as obvious. So please, please, please have your lights, use your lights. But several growers have said before they turn left, they turn off those flashing lights. I think that is a really, really key piece of information. Okay, I'm going to move on. Hey, the RALP program, there's an intake that opens on June the 3rd. So that's the Resilient Agricultural Landscape Program. Go to the Ontario Soil and Crop website. There's information there, but the dollars are basically available until they get used up. So if you want to do something around reduced tillage or any of those management issues, have a look there, see if it fits, get your application in. Next, roots in tile. I talk about this lots. We are getting more reports of people finding roots in tile, and they're asking, how do I find out what the roots are in the tile? Are they tree roots? Are they cover crop roots? Are they, perish the thought, wheat roots? So Turnkey Genomics in Guelph. You can Google them, Turnkey Genomics. That's where you send the roots. They will give you the best guess in terms of what they are. And if you know you have some wheat roots or some tree roots that are close, you can send with the sample out of the tile. They can do a comparison. And as I understand it, at least, and that will let you know what roots are in the tile. I don't know that it matters a whole lot, because, if there's roots in the tile, we have to fix it. And if it's wheat roots, man, just grow great wheat. We're going to fix the odd tile. That's all there is to it. If it's tree roots, that's a different thing. Either a solid tile or no trees. I hate the thought of no trees, but those are the options from that perspective. Okay, I want to talk quickly about the weather, because, oh my gosh, it is just, there is no equity in weather in the province of Ontario. So there are areas in Ontario that just keep getting pounded. Poor Nature Nut Nick. There's an area at Macton, and I was talking with Brett, my great friend Brett, farms in that general area, Drayton, Macton, And some of the farms that he farms just keep getting rain. They can't get the crop in. As I chatted with him on the phone, he caught the corner of another thunderstorm on a wet farm that they hadn't been able to get planted. Nature Nut Nick at Strathroy just seems to be in this one little area where every rain that comes along pounds him. That it's so frustrating. Meanwhile, Dungannon Dan tweets out, thank you to @WeatherX1. They tweet lots of good weather information. Thank you for sending me this 6/10 of an inch of rain. It was perfect. We're done planting. We needed the rainfall. Now I'm putting my T3 on my wheat crop. And yes, there are areas where that rain was actually really, really beneficial. Glencoe getting 100 millimeters of rain in the last 7 days on that heavy clay soil there. So frustrating. Alberta, on the other hand, Jeremy Boychin on the Agronomist on Monday night saying that Alberta, they're in a 5-year drought. So they've had very little moisture for 5 years. Terrible crops. They have had 6 inches of rain this spring. So a huge godsend for them. And Razvan from Romania, I tweeted out, keep that wheat green. We're talking about stripe rust. Keep that wheat green. And Razvan comes back and says, yeah, we're trying. And he sends a picture. The wheat leaves are simply burning up. He's Romania. They're burning up. They're in the middle of a drought. They have no moisture. There is no equity in weather. There is no doubt about that whatsoever. But I feel for the growers that just keep getting pounded in terms of rain. Okay, I need to move on, and I really, really stirred up some discussion with this whole, why is the soil not fit this year? It should be dry. The tiles are dry. That whole discussion, awesome. The consensus is that it's a lack of deep freezes over the last few years. We're not fracturing that subsoil, letting that moisture get away. But Andy had a great comment. He says, man, my neighbor with the manure spreader swears that he's getting way more compaction. And I pushed back. I said, oh, Andy, it's because he bought a bigger manure spreader. No, it wasn't because he bought a bigger manure spreader. Same manure spreader for the last 20 years swears that the compaction is getting worse over time. Now, that may be that we get deep compaction and it doesn't go away. It takes a long time to fix deep compaction. There's no doubt about that. But on the other hand, if you don't get any deep freezes, then it doesn't help alleviate that compaction. We're not sure that the freezes do a whole lot. It's actually more so the wet dry cycles where we get real dry conditions and it cracks that soil, the shrinking and swelling clays, they crack open. That does more than frost, but the consensus is frost. I'm pretty sure there's other things going on, but wow, just a great discussion and thought process. So keep those in those comments coming. Kevin from Essex saying, yeah, Peter, I think it's the lack of freeze-thaw cycles, maybe the lack of wet-dry cycles, but we're dry on the top inch, and it's Play-Doh underneath. And on Essex clay, Kevin, I can see why you call it Play-Doh. Man, she's just a tough go from that standpoint. Okay, I want to talk about corn because it is time to switch maturities. And everybody says, oh, we're switching to soybeans. Whoa, stop. Do you realize the impact of going back to soybeans again has on your rotation? From Albert Tenuta, our provincial pathologist, soybean cyst nematode, sudden death syndrome, Phytophthora root rot, Rhizoctonia root rot. How many reasons do I have to give to stay the course on corn as long as you can? Now, what astounds me is that James at Cache Bay, so we are in northern Ontario, James at Cache Bay got taken out by sandhill cranes, and he is going back in to replant, perhaps as we speak. And this is, May the 29th, and we're at Cache Bay, and he's staying with corn, and he's going back in with a 72-day, that's about 2,150 corn heat units, crop heat units, going back in with corn again. Meanwhile, the people in Essex County that have 3,400 heat units, in fact, Dale Cowan at the breakfast meeting on Tuesday morning said Essex County has received 4,000 crop heat units every year for the last 5 years, and they're going to go back to soybeans yet again. Come on, people. We have the heat. In the areas where we have the heat, the planting deadline for corn with Agricor is June the 15th. I think there's a reason for that. Just go to shorter day corns. If you're in a 3,000 heat unit area, you can go, or a 100-day corn, you can go back to 85-day corn hybrids. There are excellent, absolutely excellent 85-day corn hybrids that will yield 200 bushels per acre. You can grow the crop, you can keep your rotation, and we don't get into all these issues we have when we go to continuous soybeans. Okay, I'll crawl off my pedestal on that one. I'm pretty passionate, as you can tell. Rotation, rotation, rotation. It solves so many issues. Meanwhile, I mentioned James at Cache Bay with the Sandhill cranes. Elvern at, I think, Mount Forest or somewhere in that area, gravel knolls. And he got taken out. 10 feet of row with nothing, and then there'll be plants again, and only the gravel knolls, a 25-acre field with 3 or 4 acres of gravel knolls. The birds, whether it's turkeys or it's crows, he said there were sandhill cranes earlier, but none now. Not sure what, but the birds are just simply digging those plants up, eating them. And he asked about Avapel. The problem with Avapel, number one, it's way too pricey. You can't afford it. Number two, you need an exterminator's license. So no, that is really a non-starter. So then you kind of go, what else can we do? Well, James at Cache Bay has asked the question, could I seed wheat and let the sandhill cranes or the birds feed on those seeds, just broadcast it on the surface, and then plant the corn through that? Pretty easy to take wheat as a seedling out of the corn crop as it emerges, or something in that range, or maybe we let the corn just start to emerge and then broadcast the wheat seed. Do something where we can prevent those birds from taking the corn crop out. I'm not sure how that worked, or if James even got around to trying it, but we need to come up with some innovative ways to prevent the birds from wiping corn out, because this might be an isolated problem, but where it happens, it's really devastating, and we need a better answer. Okay, I'm going to move on. Timely weed control. Man, most people are doing a great job, but as I drive through the countryside, I see these cornfields where there's just a carpet of weeds. Research from Dr. Peter Sikkema, again, at the breakfast meeting on Tuesday at Ridgetown, he went through that data. If you have heavy weed pressure, and trust me, where I see weed pressure in a cornfield at 80 kilometers or 90 kilometers an hour going down the road, that is heavy weed pressure. It's a carpet. You have heavy weed pressure, 1.7 bushel per acre per day yield loss for every day that you delay killing those weeds. Peter's comment was just waiting to spray on Tuesday morning versus spraying Monday night to kill those weeds, you lose $11 an acre. That's 1.7 bushels at the price he was using. Call it $10. So $10 a day that you lose. And it's not like you're going to spend less money on the herbicides to kill those weeds if you wait. If anything, you're going to spend more money, because big weeds take more product to control them. That's all there is to it. And I know the weather's been tough, but man, this timely weed control. We talked about this on the Monday radio show. Jay Wetter from the Canola Council, or Canola Watch, I think, he said, hey, Pete, man, it's not just corn, it's canola as well. He sent some data. If you control the weeds in canola at 1-leaf stage, 37 bushels per acre. At 4-leaf stage, 34 bushels per acre. At 6-leaf stage, 30 bushels per acre. So, a good way to lose 7 bushels per acre in canola, just wait till the 6-leaf stage of the canola to control the weeds. It's true in soybeans, it's true in edible beans. Peter Sikkema says, start clean, stay clean. We really have to focus in on that because the yield impact, the profitability impact is absolutely huge. Okay, get off that and move on to nitrogen in wheat. And Eric from Prince Edward Island, Matt from Stainer sending pictures to me of poor spread patterns of nitrogen and sulfur in the wheat crop. It just has huge impact. And by the way, again, you spent the same money on the nitrogen and the sulfur. You didn't buy less nitrogen and sulfur, and now you got this big problem because where you applied it heavy, it's going to lodge. Where you didn't apply enough, it's yellow and deficient. Sean Schill tweeting out a response to Matt at Stainer saying, man, go in there with 28%. Get your pattern right so that you have the nozzles off where the wheat's dark green and you can apply only in the areas where you need that nitrogen. And there is still response, by the way. We're at heading or at flag leaf at Stainer, a boot stage at Stainer, there's still response to putting that on, but you must get it on right away. Romulo Lodato from Kansas seeing the discussion on Twitter saying, boy, I think that looks like sulfur. I think in this particular issue, it's both probably, but when you get dark green strips and light green strips from these rental spreaders, man, they are the problem. It's most likely nitrogen. It could be both, but dang, those rental spreaders, I think we should just send them to the metal recycler and have them turned into something that is of some value. Maybe plow moldboards would be more value than we get out of those rental spreaders. Okay, enough on that. I better move on. Two different Joshes asking me about MAP with soybeans. Do you do it? Don't you do it? Well, if you have low soil test and you're putting the MAP right with the seed, you can go 40 pounds of MAP or MES, doesn't matter, 50 pounds maybe. You will probably reduce your population a little bit, but the phosphorus response trumps the reduction in the stand. Some people going to 100 pounds per acre, we know you lose 10 to 15% of your stand if you do that with soybeans. And the whole crux of the issue is that Horst Bonner's data is clear. You get the same response to broadcast phosphorus on soybeans that you do as seed placed. It's because the phosphorus demand is late and soybeans have lots of feeder roots. So can you put it right with the seed? Yes, small amounts. But why would you put it right with the seed? Maybe if it saves you a trip, but I just don't quite understand why people want to put it right with the soybean seed when we can broadcast it and not reduce our stand and get the same yield response. Mark, potash deficiency in alfalfa, down on the flats, highly productive ground, not seeing potash deficiency on the rest of the farm. Mark, it's all about removal. Absolutely. When you get those highly productive areas and you're taking hay off, you get big volumes. By the way, the hay yields this year have been unbelievable. Yeah, well, you take just 200 pounds per acre of potash off or something like that, and if you don't replace it, you put the same application on the whole field, yeah, that is not going to work for you. So absolutely, if you're seeing that potash deficiency, get more potash applied. Andy asking about phosphorus on wheat, just saying, wow, my tissue test is dropping. We know that in the data that Shane and Wheat Pete did, that phosphorus is uptake right through to anthesis. Yeah, try it, Andy. It's tough to get phosphorus through the leaf. So a foliar product, I think, is pretty skeptical. But give it a go, because how else do we learn? I want to talk quickly about stripe rust. I hit it hard last week. But wow, the difference in genetics. So we have R64, which we thought, the data suggested R64 was reasonably tolerant. Beside Blaze, in a number of side-by-side comparisons, the R64 is not as tolerant as we thought. It is showing a lot of stripe rust. It's not as bad as the highly susceptibles. There's some highly susceptible varieties that are just getting smoked. But the Blaze is clean, the R64 definitely it needs application, it needs control. If we don't control it, it's going to really hurt that variety badly. So that is just the genetic component to striped rust is really, really significant this year. So pay attention to that if you can at all. Okay, I'm going to go a little long here, but I want to finish on the T3 application, the fusarium application. Brandon asking, do we spray twice? We sprayed early for stripe rust. We stopped the stripe rust. That's only about 10 days ago. We weren't going to apply a T3, but now we're looking at the weather. High risk, high fusarium risk. Absolutely, Brandon. Apply. You're 10 days apart. Get it on as quickly as you can because the window is closing. But the chances of getting an economical response under high fusarium conditions to a T2 and a T3, add in the quality factor, go spray that T3. Meanwhile, lots of growers asking about adding something to the T3 application. And my question would be, why? People wanting to add manganese. Well, okay, do you have a manganese deficiency? No. Well, then why would you add manganese? It does not make sense to me. Don't forget that some of the products we add have surfactant qualities. So things like Li700, Interlock, we're seeing this in a number of cases where those products, they're drift control agents, they're drift retardants, but they also have surfactant qualities, and we are seeing some surfactant burn. They can increase the surfactant burn, and so just be aware of that. Tyler from Nebraska making an error, having 2 times the surfactant when he put on his T3 application. Chances are you're fine, Tyler, but every once in a while the weather conditions are just such. We do have some instances in Ontario of surfactant burn, but again, pay attention to how much you put in the tank. Matt saying, Pete, it's windy. It's at the window. I'm at the window. Can I spray the T3 at night? Yes, Matt, get it done. Night spraying is fine with the T3. You've got the tram lines, just follow them. Andy saying it's going to 3 degrees tonight. Can I still spray my T3? Yep, no problem. Steve saying it's too wet. What about aerial versus ground? Steve, aerial we don't ever like for fusarium, but you know, with the stripe rust potential and the timeliness, I'd take aerial over ground applied too late or not getting the job done 100%. And with that, I'm going to stop there because, oh my gosh, what a long episode of Wheat Pete's Word. On behalf of the team here at Real Agriculture, this is Wheat Pete with the Word for Wednesday, May the 29th. Keep the questions coming. I'll try not to talk so much, but I guess I just talk a lot. And we'll do the same next Wednesday. See you then.